Have you ever looked at your life and you quietly thought, how did I get here? Not because your life is falling apart, not because you're irresponsible. You know what? Actually, it's usually the opposite. Is that you show up, you work, you provide, you handle what needs to be handled. You're doing everything that a man is supposed to do. But it seems like somewhere along the way is that your life stopped feeling like something that you're living, and it starts feeling like something that you're managing. I mean, you wake up, you're working, you're paying all your bills, you handle every responsibility or try to handle every responsibility on your plate. You go to sleep and you repeat the process over and over again. And if you're being honest, you know what? Some days feel exactly like the day before. And you know what? It's not because you're lazy and it's not because you're broken, but it's really because you're living your life on autopilot. And in this video, I want to talk about why so many men end up there. Because men don't usually wake up one morning and decide, you know what? I'm going to lose myself. It just happens slowly. It's one responsibility at a time, one routine, one season at a time, until one day you realize, you know what? You know your schedule better than you know yourself. And I had this feeling before because I've lived pieces of like this myself in my life. There were seasons in my life where everything became about responsibility. I'm going from one job to another. I'm trying to provide. I'm trying to keep things together. I'm trying to do what I thought that a man is supposed to do. And you know what? Don't get me wrong. Responsibility does matter. It really do. Providing does matter. Showing up does matter. But there were moments where life just started feeling more like a checklist than a calling. Get up, go to work, come home, and do it all again tomorrow. And when you're carrying responsibilities long enough, something dangerous can happen. You become so focused on what needs to be done that you stop asking yourself, who am I becoming? And a lot of men know exactly what everyone else needs from them. But if you ask them certain questions like, who are you? Where are you going? What do you actually want your life to be about? It seems like they struggle to answer that. And it's not because they're bad men, because they're just so busy surviving. And here's what I think that happens to a lot of men is that early on in life, responsibility to them feels like meaning. I mean, they're building something, they're creating something, they're moving towards something. But you know what? Over time, responsibility can quietly become a routine, and a routine can quietly become identity. And at some point, the routine is no longer helping you build a life. What happens now is the routine becomes your life. I mean, the alarm goes off, your coffee starts brewing, the commute to work begins, the meetings happen, the bills are getting paid, your entire calendar is filled up. And you know, before long, you're no longer a man with a vision. You become a sequence of tasks. And that's why so many men feel disconnected, because movement and direction, they're not the same thing. A man could be busy every hour of every day, and you know what? He still has no idea where he's going. A full calendar is not the same thing as a meaningful life. And I know a lot of men have movement, but what they're missing is direction. And you know what? Here's another truth. Busyness can become an antiseptic. As long as you're busy, you don't have to sit and ask or think about certain questions. As long as you're busy, you don't have to think about what's feeling missing. As long as you're busy, you don't have to ask, is this the life that I actually want? So the routine continues, not because it's bringing life, but because, well, it's preventing reflection. And the scary thing is, autopilot doesn't look like failure. It looks more like success. It looks like a man who shows up every day. A man who's constantly paying the bills. A man that's handling the responsibilities. A man who's depended on. And from the outside, you know what? Everything looks fine. But inside, something just feels off. I mean, you sit in the driveway, right, for a few minutes. You stare at the ceiling. It's 2 a.m. at night, in the morning. You scroll your phone longer than you should, and not because you're trying to waste time, because you're trying to avoid questions. A question that's been waiting for you in silence. A question that sounds something like this. Is this it? I mean, really, is it? Not because you hate your life, not because you don't love your family, not because you regret your responsibilities, but because somewhere underneath all the roles, you lost connection with yourself. You've become the provider. You're the husband. You're the father. You're the employee. You're known as the reliable one. And they are important roles, but what they're just roles. They're not your identity. And if you're not careful, the roles take up so much space that you forget that there's a man underneath them. And maybe that's why so many men feel what I call directionless. Maybe that's why so many men feel emotionally numb. Maybe that's why so many men feel empty after achieving success. Because their routine replaced their identity. Because survival replaced purpose. Because function replaced presence. And eventually a man wakes up and realizes that I know my responsibilities. I know my schedule. I know what everyone needs from me. But somewhere along the way, I stopped asking myself, who am I? And maybe that's why so many men feel this ache they can't explain, which they call stress, or they call it burnout, or they call it being tired. But if they were completely honest, the feeling underneath all of this sounds like this. I miss me. I miss the version of me that dreamed. I miss the version of me that had curiosity. I miss the version of me that believed life was heading somewhere. I miss the version of me that was just managing life, but actually living it. And the scary part is that most men don't know when they lost him. They just know that they haven't heard his voice in a long time. Because a man who loses sight of who he is will eventually lose sight of why he's doing everything else. In my favorite book, Jesus said in John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. Think about that for a moment. Life, not existence, not survival, life. And maybe the question isn't how do I become productive? Maybe the question is, have I become so busy living my life that I stop actually living it? Because underneath the schedule, underneath the responsibilities, underneath the routine, you know what? There's still a man. There's still a man who used to dream. There's still a man who used to wonder. There's still a man who used to believe his life was heading somewhere. He never actually disappeared. He was just buried underneath everything he had to carry. Everything that's on his plate. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it's time that you meet him again. Maybe he isn't gone. He's still there. He's waiting. What he's doing, he's waiting underneath the provider. He's waiting underneath the professional. He's waiting underneath the reliable one. He's waiting underneath every role that you carried for everyone else. There's still a man. There's still the life unlived. And you know what? It's time for you to discover that.